I made 2 masks for spooky season last year, and this year I only made 1, but it's a good one. Hey there fellow makers, this workout ball shape would make a great base for a new mask. So instead of reinventing the wheel, or sphere in this case, I wrapped a portion in duct tape to make a simple pattern. After adding some relief cuts, it was time to glue these EVA foam wedges together, lining them up on the matching sides, creating a simple semi-domed disc. And with 2 of these made, we're ready to sketch and cut out some details. Son, the daycare attendant might not be the scariest animatronic in Five Nights at Freddy's Security Breach, but that's only when you keep the lights on. Once the lights go out, there's no hiding from Moon. It can find you in any hiding place, even when you're hiding in Freddy himself. Sure, it's not too hard to dodge Moon at the beginning of the daycare's hide and seek, but afterwards, it can become a real nightmare. To prevent this project from becoming a nightmare, I thought I could push up the nostril by adding some chunks of foam behind it. This way, I have less spooky seams to blend out later. It felt like a cheeky strategy, and now it's time to bulk out those cheekies. This ball that I found on a park trash cleanup adventure happened to be the perfect size. By repeating the process I used on the face, I was able to make some super round cheeks. I just had to pop them up, like one of those rubber cup pop-up toys from the 90s. It's time to get all Oedipus on these eyes, and give the mask a facelift. While we're at it, I should get rid of this mouth plate too. I thought I might carve the teeth out, leaving the mouth as a solid piece, but I really wanted the extra ventilation. I used a magenta Sharpie to draw on the finishing details. Sun has a few engravings on its face, and I needed to mark out where those were gonna go. Pro tip, have a variety of marker colors when doing sketch work like this, starting with the faintest color for your initial sketch and finishing with your boldest color. That way you can sketch with ink, although maybe find more compatible markers. These Sharpies kept bleeding through my paint layers. I must have bled through all 6 layers of gesso that I was using to buff out the edges and gaps between my foam pieces. It got so bad that I decided to coat the piece in a protective, and hopefully no longer penetrable, thick layer of spray chrome. By painting this open-celled woven fabric black, I made the mouth and eye coverings. Using a sponge limits the number of holes that get clogged up with the paint, and base coating with black paint will make it easier to see through when it's all done. With that, we're finally ready to get painting, blocking out the base colors for the 3 major segments and layering from there. I chose to start out with the lightest color for each section. Normally I highlight as a final step when painting 3-dimensional projects, so I would often begin with a middle tone, but this time I had to plan out my colors carefully because I was running really low on cadmium yellow. Thankfully, Sun doesn't have that much yellow. Yeah, I know, it's the color that's clearly used the most. But I was hoping my strategic plan of using less pigment initially might be enough to make it stretch. But let's not worry about that for now and focus on dry brushing the eyes and teeth. Painting over the see-through fabric can be a challenge. I try to rub off as much paint as possible before the brush even reaches the cloth. This keeps the cells open, or at least more open. You can always go back in with a needle to open them up as needed, but it's way more effort than just being careful in the first place. And I don't want to make this project more of a challenge than it already is. These dimples and engravings need to look a little more sunken in, and their natural shadows aren't doing enough. So I filled each one with the darkest color for the shadow, and then buffed out the edges by dry brushing the base color along the outer rim. This creates a pretty convincing deep shadow without too much effort, and I think it's going to appreciate this attention to detail on its face. You might be confused to why I keep using it so much, and that's not an accident. The daycare attendant appears to use its pronouns. After completing the daycare's game of hide and seek, Moon escapes, and Freddy warns you that every hour the power is diverted to the recharge stations. When that happens, the lights go out, and the daycare attendant is free to roam the building. It will find you. Some official articles have talked about the daycare attendant using the they/them pronouns when describing this character, but its is a perfectly valid pronoun, and it's the one that's used within the game. Some folks insist that Sun and Moon are male, because the voice actor is male, which led to its voice sounding more masculine. But gender is more than how others perceive you. With Sun's extremely flamboyant personality, and again, the use of its pronouns over he/him, I feel more comfortable assuming that the daycare attendant is some flavor of non-binary, making it a queer icon, and one of the limited examples of its representation that we get in video game media. After adding the final orange to yellow gradient to Sun's rays, this mask is finished and ready to be worn. I used layers of upholstery foam to get the mask to attach to an elastic headband. This gave it a lot of play, which I think is needed for the Daycare Attendant. It normally rocks its head back and forth with its wild and dynamic movement, and I'm glad that I was able to capture that motion. Besides, it's really fun to wiggle from side to side, but I'm getting carried away. I hope that this walkthrough on how I made this mask was helpful, and that you go out there and make the thing. Happy making, everyone!